Tracy.
Hi guys, it's Conor.
And we're here with you with Big Red SEO on this Friday. So what a lot of you guys don't know is for the past 11 weeks, we've been doing weekly recaps on our personal page on behalf of both of us being a husband and wife team. And we've been talking about business, we've been talking about marketing, specifically SEO, pay-per-click, as well as website design. And then we've actually been talking about life as well. So we have received such a massive following with this that we actually opted to go ahead and put it on our business page because we realized like a lot of our fans and followers are probably needing access to the information as well. And while we both have our profiles as public, sometimes people don't know to cross over to be able to get information. So we're here with you guys today. We appreciate you guys tuning in already. Thanks so much for following again. But this week we actually have a couple different things that we want to cover with you guys. Specifically, we want to cover different updates within the marketing industry. Conor, so before we start, how's your week going so far?
Yeah.
How's your week?
I don't know. The week's been okay. The week's been warm. It's been busy. It's been quiet in terms of Google, in terms of what's happening over there. So Google hasn't really done a whole lot of major things. Security updates have been kind of mellow for the week for the most part. So yeah, overall, decent week, lots of work, busy work, it seems. End of summer, we're always into updates and plug-in updates and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy.
So for me, gosh, yeah, it worked. So for me, it's interesting this week. I had referenced conversations multiple times of one, how the heck is it already the middle of July? So just from a business and a life standpoint, I'm like, where is life going? It's going so fast and so quick. And that's kind of like one thing that you have to like try to make sure that you're present in life and in business and communications with clients and projects. And we both know because we do the sales, the marketing, we're a two-shop person here. We actually chose that like 8 years ago. We started the business, we had massive teams. We decided to scale back to husband and wife team. But it's quite interesting because like you have to be present and we have different projects. So it's easy for us to get into the weeds, but then we pull ourselves back out and we just appreciate like the time and the fact of, gosh, it's July and it's already in the middle of July. So
it's the end of July.
Well, not really. Like he also counts down for Christmas, right? So he counts down the Christmas time frame. So really quick to start. So usually these videos are targeted for business owners as well as freelancers. It's also, we've gotten followers from all different types of people as well. So the thing is that we wanted to share with you guys some quick updates regarding SEO specifically. Conor, you had some ranking and some information that you wanted to share. He's trying to get the personal.
So here's the thing. I'm still sticking with my damn phone.
Yes.
So I got that squared away.
Okay.
And you said what about rankings?
So you had,
I'm sorry, guys.
No, you had a couple different updates with Google that you wanted to share, some information.
Yeah, there was a couple of minor stuff from Google. Of course, the big thing this week was that Google got a fine from the European Union. It was a $5 billion fine. So that's kind of a big deal, but basically what it was an antitrust thing. The European Union says that Google is putting stuff on their phones.
Thanks for joining, guys.
And
antitrust
issue
fine.
Sorry,
Apple?
you spoke and that was the end of that. So anyway, antitrust stuff. So they fined Google for that. And my own take on it is that, well, Apple has their own phone, so you know, well, meh. So anyways, so that's kind of the big thing from Google. There's a handful of other minor things that have come out. They've made some updates to the Search Console for the webmasters end of things. Of course, the shift is still on for the AdWords to get renamed to ads, so that's still going on. And what else did I have here? That, you know what, that's really it. There really wasn't a whole lot of stuff that happened.
Yeah.
With
well,
Google
and it's interesting because Google's been pretty busy so far with a lot of different updates. So every once in a while, it kind of goes quiet with that. And then all of a sudden, there will be like a massive amount of updates hit again as well. So a couple different things that we had that we wanted to talk to you guys about is the importance of when you're running a business, whether you're a freelancer or you're a mom and pop shop or a store, if it's relevant to your services, you want to make sure that you actually have contracts or you have a listed agreement via email or something like that if you're selling a specific service on what is included with this service. So in the 8 years that we've been in business, we've seen this happen quite a lot, but it feels like in the past 6 months, at least within our industry, specifically SEO, pay-per-click, and web design, it appears, or based on the information that we're delivered, it seems like there's a lot of communication of, hey, you should purchase the service, you should do this thing, I'll get you results, I'll do da-da-da-da-da. Yet there's no contract to say they're going to do A, B, and C and complete it. And or what happens is there is a contract and then nothing is done, if that makes sense. So I think our overall message that you wanted to share specifically is it's really important if you're purchasing a service of any type to have a list of what is all included, and then make sure that you verify to your best ability that you can that all the tasks were actually completed that you paid for, right? Mm-hmm. Because one, it sucks to pay for something that you're not getting, like downright, no matter what it is, whether it's you pay for lawn care and then you have grass up to your knees, but you paid the lawn care team, right? I had one teacher that had her kitchen remodeled and she was doing it while she was on vacation, and they were supposed to come in, and then when she came back from vacation, they never did anything and they actually disappeared. So like that's a real extreme, but there's a certain scenario of a contract actually helps you, one, as a business owner or a freelancer, it helps protect both sides, right? It helps hold the freelancer or the company accountable to say, hey, you need to be delivering these services that you have already proposed and you won the contract. Then on the other side, for the person that's actually purchasing it, it gives you a list to understand of I'm paying for A, B, and C, and less paying, more in I'm investing. So that's the terminology we use a lot in our business is less let's pay this bill.
Yeah, but when people are working with us, they are investing.
Yes.
When they work with somebody else and give them $200 and say, let's hope for this, then they are paying. So it's
yeah, I mean, it's a voice of opinion. Yeah, I mean, it can be reflected, but
definitely the big thing on it is from the contracts end of things. So whether it's a contract or whether it's just a list of these are all the things I'm going to do, I mean, that is your saving grace, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I go to the store and I buy duct tape, I see a list on the outside of the packet of all the things that you can use duct tape for. And it's amazing the amount of things you can use it for. But going into the store, buying that roll, I have a specific need, it meets the need, and then I go and apply the task. And the same thing then when it deals with like SEO, for example.
Sure.
So if your web developer is saying that they're going to do your titles and your description tags, and they're going to do your schema markup, and they're going to do the reviews and mark those up for rich snippets and things like that, you have to have an idea of what it is they're doing. Yeah. Then check and make sure that it's actually done.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And there's tools online. Google, one of the neat things in Google Webmasters inside of the Search Console, there's a section there that you can run the check and find out was it done or not.
Right.
Now, when we run a task set up for a client, we give a list back to say these are all the things that we have completed. So you have a list to begin with of these are all the things we're going to do. Then you get a list saying these are all the things that were done.
Yeah.
And it keeps me in check, keeps you in check,
mm-hmm.
and keeps the client kind of in the
And it allows us to be able to do communication back and forth, right? Because sometimes I know for me personally, if I've bought a service and I purchase it and then all of a sudden the company goes MIA and they just go silent, I get a little concerned and a little worried, right? I'm one of those people, I just get super excited. I get super excited about different things that we invest in, so I want the ball to start rolling as quickly as possible based on whatever the availability is. So long story short, without diving in too much deeper, just make sure that you have something in writing. It doesn't have to be an official contract. That's better, so in case it does kind of go wonky, you can actually take it to court and have signatures and hold it accountable. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, there needs to be some kind of paper trail back and forth, not necessarily on the phone having a conversation, but via email. So it's one to the other of what's included and what's not. And again, whether it's marketing, whether it's web design, or any service that you're actually paying and investing for. That's really, really important. The second thing that we've actually noticed over the past couple weeks is don't consume or don't believe, or that's the wrong word. I'm trying to find the right word for me, guys. Don't just assume that the person that's writing your content as well as doing your website actually knows grammar and punctuation. That's the easiest way to say it.
That's a very politically correct way
well,
to say it.
It's like one of those things, right? So we actually had a situation with a client where there's a service that they provide and there was an incorrect spelling. So it's actually live on their website. They've been in business for quite some time. And they're wondering why, hey, why am I not ranking for the specific keyword? And there's multiple different stuff that happened into it that blocked that specifically, but we did notice that there was actually, their primary service was spelled incorrectly.
Yeah, it was 2 letters that was swapped.
Yeah.
So think of it like milk, M-I-L-K.
No, you can actually see it. It's like I before E except after C. Like that's the 2 letters that were backwards. Did you like education moment? It just like came right back up. My teacher would be proud. Aww. So, but no, so that was the situation. I before E, it was switched backwards, which is super common, right? But here's the deal, is this isn't the first situation that we've had happen here. So in previous videos on our personal profiles, we had talked about a tool called like Grammarly. We use that internally. You don't have to use it.
We're not sponsored by them.
We're not sponsored. There's not an affiliate.
Promotion.
It's just a resource we use.
Yeah.
However, they check spelling, grammar. They'll actually help you create different types of letters and so forth regarding proper English, non-proper English, stuff like that. But just don't assume that whoever's writing your content, or like you mentioned this morning, even if somebody is importing your content for you, they actually might choose to hand type it versus copy and paste.
I'm guilty of that. So
yeah,
I type.
He is very guilty of it.
And I'm a fast typer. But yeah, certain times I'll type something in. So if a client gives me, piece of paper like this, we get the first 2 paragraphs in there, there's 1 line and then 3 lines after that. It's quicker for me to retype that than it is just to, highlight the whole dang thing, copy it, and then paste it, and so forth. So I'll just retype it. Man, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a big deal if I don't reread it and catch the error, or if you don't get to read it and catch the error, and then it sits on the website for 2-3 years, and then you finally find out that, oh, the reason I haven't been ranking for this is because it's been spelled wrong, and it's in the header tag.
Now, I will admit, I have a wicked attention to detail. It actually drives this guy crazy sometimes, because I'm like, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, you need to fix this, and he'll just be like doing his jam. He's just trying to get the project done, right? That's one of the reasons why we make a good combo, because he hammers out the work or whatever, and then I verify and check.
Mm-hmm.
But just don't assume that somebody's going to be able to spell things properly or correctly. A thing that we like to recommend is if you're creating your own website content, ask friends, clients, as well as existing clients if they would be cool with reviewing. Reviewing your content. We personally love asking like little young ones to read content in certain industries, because if they can understand it, then that means that the information has been brought to a level of understanding that anybody and everyone from all different skills can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming across multiple different websites, and I could not tell you what services they offer, what they did for a living. Like I was like, I don't understand what is it at the end of the day that they do. But it's important to make sure that you clearly articulate what you do as a service as well as a product, mainly to remove confusion, right? So it's a special dance, but just make sure grammar, punctuation, even Google gives a little bit of bonus points for grammar and punctuation, which is kind of cool in its own self.
Yeah, and going from there, I mean, you should be able to sum up what it is that you do with 15 words.
Yeah.
Break it down to that lowest.
Almost like
number.
an elevator pitch, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like thinking of it from an elevator pitch, you have 15-30 seconds to stand. What are you going to be able to say? Now, from a content end, we're going to tell you need way more content than that.
Sure.
I think
your openings, though, your opening can be nice and small. Your sentences can be, shorter or whatnot.
Yeah.
Mark Twain there was a quote from Mark Twain that said, I wrote you this long letter. Oh
gosh.
I'm sorry.
He's going to go into his memory bank.
It's right back here. Somebody
If
will,
anybody knows
yeah.
the quote, put it in the comments.
Somebody help me out in the chat. Essentially, it was, I didn't have a whole lot of time, so I wrote you this long letter. And the concept being that if the person actually took their time, they would have refined the letter and made it a little bit more concise. Instead, they wrote a 2-page diatribe of just crap. Here we go. This is it. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
If somebody can find the actual quote, please put it in the comments there, and that'll save me a research task for later on tonight.
Right? He's
So-
going to go Mark Twain his own. Google Mark Twain yourself this evening. And
There you go.
Right?
Figure it out.
Yeah, so a couple other things for you guys. One, we want to hammer home the importance of making sure that your business information is valid and relevant all across on the internet. Specifically, what we're talking about is your name, address, and phone number, right? So that's classified as the NAP. We've briefly talked about that before.
Explain the map.
Yeah, so it's the name, address, and phone number essentially is what the NAP is. However, what happens on the internet specifically when you have a business, there's different like directory listings out there, and there's different like companies that create websites that scrape information off the internet, that put all the information in one area, which is what happens with a directory listing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's the deal, is a lot of people assume that since they have their information right on the website, or they have their information right over somewhere else, that all across the internet by default it'll be right and correct, but it's not. It's not in most cases, and here's the reason why. So like one person might actually type the word out street, and then other people will abbreviate it ST, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people will do suite and then a hashtag and then whatever the suite number is. Other people will abbreviate STE, and maybe they don't put the hashtag number. So it's really important to make sure that all your information is correct out there, and it helps like remove confusion from the end users. Specifically, if you do like pay-per-click, or if you hire somebody to do pay-per-click and you don't own the account yourself, they might actually try to talk you into doing tracking numbers. And the problem with tracking numbers is it's going to make your name, address, and phone number records kind of a little messy.
So when you talk about the tracking number, we're talking about the phone number.
Yeah.
That instead of having your normal office number line,
Right. Mm-hmm.
that they give you basically a pool of numbers, and that might have been used for somebody else. So it could have been used for a florist.
Yeah.
It could have been used for an undertaker. It could have been used for your competition.
Right.
So the problem from that end, especially with the trackers, is that if you're buying AdWords, and let's say you need a locksmith, for example, we use them as a pretty good example there. People will click the first, second ad, they'll call the phone number, they may even save the phone number in the phone.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the next time they need a locksmith and they just bring it up in their phone, well, now the number goes to somebody random, and now they've got to start their search again.
Right.
So yeah, keeping your own phone number is kind of important. The directory listings, keeping that number consistent. Now there's one minor change in there, that whether the phone number is like 402 and that's inside your brackets, or whether you use 402 dot, 522, whatever.
Or nothing at all, or dash.
Just dashes or spaces, or it's all combined. So that Google has already said that that is not a problem. They understand that there is no one universal format.
Right.
So from that angle, it's not really important that they all look the same. But for
the digits need to be the same.
Yeah, the digits definitely need to be the same.
And the other thing too is, if you guys have people that are actually picking up the phone and calling you about a service, ask them how they found you. So what happens a lot is people have this perceived belief that it's going to be an awkward conversation for them to ask, hey, how did you hear about it? What we do in our thing is we go through our normal conversation with people that call us, and we chit chat and try to add value wherever we can based on their situation scenario. We determine the best next steps, and then before we actually hang up the phone, we say, hey, by the way, do you mind if I ask, how did you find us? Mm-hmm. Most cases they say, hey, we just did a Google search, or they might just say, oh, I found you online. So if they say, hey, I found you online, our next thing is like, oh, great, what search engine did you use? Was it Google? Was it Bing? Was it DuckDuckGo? Believe it or not, they'll actually tell you. So they'll usually tell us it was Google, and then we're like, hey, that's super cool. Thanks so much for the information. Do you happen to remember what keyword term you typed in? Right? So here's the importance of asking this question. A lot of people don't do it. They just want to get off the phone as quick as possible. They're super busy and all that jazz. If you can determine what keyword they actually typed in, you already have a conversion, which means that keyword has already led to activity for you to convert a prospect to a client or a prospect to the next action steps conversion, right? So essentially what that means is something that you're doing is right within that keyword that they're utilizing. Does that make sense? A lot of people wind up getting super awkward and they just don't want to have the conversation, but it helps. And here's how you take it the next level. Put that into an Excel file, or if you use Google My Docs, put it into a Google Excel doc file and start tracking it. And then start tracking the amount of calls that are coming in based on specific keywords in specific areas, right? There's different strategies that you can actually apply and utilize based on that information, from content creation to marketing creation to even social media posts, and figuring out, hey, what is the information that you're getting? How did you find us? Here's another tip. If somebody comes to your website and they're like, hey, I landed on your website, I loved it. A lot of times people would be like, oh, okay, great, cool, thanks so much. Don't stop the conversation there. Ask them, what did you love about my website? What made you pick up the phone and call? A lot of times it might be images, it might be the message, it might be the culture, it might be that you actually spoke to a direct problem that they had, and guess what, guys? If that's the case, they're already a conversion as well. So what that means is
somebody else is.
Yeah, so what that means is if you've already converted, that means your actual content, the concept of your design, whatever you're producing is actually doing its job, and you can amplify that information. So it's a couple different things that a lot of times people don't think about or they don't consider whenever somebody dials a phone and says, hey, I have more information about your services. I know sometimes the prospect process can be a little awkward sometimes, keeping the conversation going. Believe it or not, people want to help. So just go ahead and ask the question. They have the knowledge right in front of them. And believe it or not, in most cases, if people don't remember when I'm on the phone, they say, hold on a second, let me go check my computer. And they'll actually go look at their browser history and give me every single keyword that they actually searched,
that happens quite
which
a bit.
is super cool because one, you're building a connection and a relationship. Two, you're letting them provide something to you so they feel as useful as what you were on the phone. And it kind of creates a bond to say, hey, thank you so much, genuinely. I really appreciate you giving me this information.
And a lot of times, when you're on the phone with them, a lot of times they'll tell you what position number you're in.
Yeah.
And if somebody was above you, why they did or did not call that person.
That is hilarious.
And called you
like
instead.
It is pretty funny. Like if we're not ranked number one, they'll say, oh, you're ranked number 3, but I clicked on you instead of the number 1. But that's a whole nother
it's
scenario.
It's a completely different story.
Because it's like based on conversation, right? And that's what it is at the end of the day. So when you have a business and you have a website specifically, and this could work for social media as well. If somebody calls you and they found you on Facebook, cool, do you remember what I posted that made you click and call? Like that is a gold mine post, right? Because again, guys, a lot of times these statistics and analytics, especially on social media, sometimes you might not get as many impressions or people aren't liking and commenting your stuff. But if they're picking up the phone and they're wanting to hire you, they may not have liked your post, but you can find out what was it that they did like, what messaging made them want to take the next step of hiring you or finding out more information.
And as you said, people are more than happy to provide that information.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. People want to talk, they want to connect, they want to be helpful.
Yeah.
So a couple other things here. I have a question for you, because I got asked this question and it really like blew me away, and I'll share my results. But reflection question was, in the last 6 months, what is one thing that you've done? What's one thing that you've done, changed, enhanced that has amplified your life and your business?
The one thing that you've done in the last 6 months that has amplified your life
and business, or business, one or the other. Do you hear the Jeopardy song in the background?
Like my head's doing this. So I guess for me in particular, there were 2 big things, but it's the same. One of them is the same thing that happens every year, and that is that I get to spend more time outside.
Right. Yeah.
So the more time I get to sit outside, whether it's in the daylight or in the dark. Sometimes I'm out there at 1 o'clock in the morning, sitting in a chair, smoking a cigar, looking at YouTube videos or going through stats and whatever. So I think the one big thing out of there is that I get to spend more time outside. You know, winter for me,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting in a garage or I'm sitting upstairs or doing whatnot. I'm generally not outside. So
Right.
that's a big part. And the other, of course, being golf. Again, I get to go out.
Yeah.
I'm outside of my normal work environment.
Right.
For me, the biggest advantage for me, or the biggest thing for me, is if I spend more time away from the work aspect of things,
Right.
I'm more focused on the work
Oh,
itself.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
while I know 40 hours is a work week, and you know, everybody's been kind of trained over the years that you have to work 40 hours.
Right.
I can get more done in a 25 or a 30-hour period
Right.
than I can dicking around for
Yeah.
40 hours. So
So yours would be golf or
yeah.
getting outside golf.
Outside, it's sunlight. Really.
Yeah. So that was one.
Yeah.
Did you have another one, or was that it?
That's pretty. Those two kind of tie into
Cool.
one. I know we've done, you know, the video stuff. We've been working on that here for the last
12.
few
This
months.
is 12 episodes. So
This
that's
is
3
12 or
months.
13.
12. Yeah.
I don't know.
Because I said the wrong date last week.
Okay.
So, and Carolina shared life coaching, right? That's a big one. So I got asked this question this morning, and whenever somebody first asked me, I was like, that seems like kind of a complex question. I need a couple seconds, right? And that's what the time you took as well. Because the interesting thing is we don't necessarily look back. Like sometimes we'll do like 30-day reflections or 2 weeks reflections. But it was interesting. I can honestly say I've never really looked back to 6 months, right? And so 6 months, guys, is like January, right?
Yeah.
So it's the beginning of the year, right? We're already in July. But if you think of that time in that process, it's brand new, right? And it was quite interesting because the thing that came up for me that has affected my life substantially, as well as my business, because everything trickles through, was this year was the first year that I finally bit the bullet and invested in myself. And what I mean by this is I'm not talking about investing into books or small workshops and retreats. I mean, I put money where my mouth is and traveled to New York twice and went to San Diego once, and all these different trainings and investing in myself on how can I self-mastery so we can step forward and serve other people as well. I'm not saying that I didn't do the work prior, but this was the first time that I actually threw a rope out to specific teachers who are super, super busy in their own life and said, I want to work directly with you and I want to get A to B. How do I do that?
Hopefully it was more than A to B.
Well, what
That's
A to B could be a pretty big step, though, if you think about that.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people want to do A to Z, which is great and fine, but sometimes A to B is the pivot that you need. And for me specifically, that was what it was, right? So it was a matter of figuring out the things that I needed to finish up and polish in order to be able to step forward and serve. So very interesting, complex question, but it intrigued me and I was like, holy crud. And then the person I had coffee with actually shared theirs as well. I'm not going to share that just for privacy reasons, but it was a cool dialogue conversation to be like, holy man, because everything in my life got enhanced by stepping forward and investing in myself.
Sure.
Which normal cases, different people invest different ways. Gym, massage, workouts, whatever, vacation, stuff like that. But this specific investment was, I want to take myself to the next level and I'm going to put the dollars where they're the most important. One tip that specific teachers say is whatever you pay, imagine you did 10 times that. And I actually applied that philosophy between January till now, and I'm telling you, substantial growth, substantial results, and it's really, really cool to see. I just thought that that was cool. It was just like a different thing to ask.
Well, I know that with the work that you've been doing, my life has been easier as a result.
Oh, yeah,
So,
it has. And he says that in such a loving husband-wife way.
I do. I do. I definitely, you know, you doing your own thing has I wouldn't say loosened the collar on me or
I mean, it has.
Else,
it has, though, like in a roundabout way. So one thing that I noticed for me specifically is, since I run the business and I do sales and marketing and I do project managing, I know that a theme for me is control. and I want to control everything. Like, I already know that. I have a tendency that I just want to dive in and control it. The challenge that sometimes I faced anyway was I wasn't discerning the stuff that I actually could control and the stuff that I could no longer control or wasn't mine to control in the first place. And this guy's one of them. This guy does awesome work. I know he can produce. I know whenever he's left by himself, but he can come to me with questions. He'll get all of his stuff done. So me standing behind his door nagging, hey, are you done with this? Are you done with this? Are you done with this? It's not helping him, right?
It takes longer.
It takes longer and it just creates frustration. So I would agree with your assessment with that, because like me investing in myself and figuring this different stuff out of my own personality and figuring out what can I control, what can I do, right? We have two different parts in the business that we handle, and then we come together as a hybrid, and then we handle stuff together, which people love. That's one of the reasons why they do business with us. But I just thought that was an interesting question, so I wanted to share. So I don't know, I know Carolina put life coaching, but if any of you guys have something that you did, a thing, a habit, whatever, in the last 6 months that changed your life substantially in business and or life, feel free to share it, because it's just a super cool question to ask. Super cool question. So that's all I had on my list today. Do you have other stuff that you wanted to share? Or anything else coming up?
You know, I have, like I said, I kind of touched a little bit on some of the stuff that was happening there. Nothing major. Really, from the search engines. One thing I did want to mention, and I was trying to find.
Before you go there, if you could hold that thought just for 1 second. If you guys, go ahead. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll try to answer them before we wrap up the video. So if you have a specific question about business, so SEO, marketing, life, business in general, feel free to put the question in, and we'll get it answered before we go finish the video. While you're doing that, one other thing I wanted to
trying to find the actual result number. I wrote it down, but it's back there in my back office, and I don't want to. One
other thing that I'll quickly share regarding social media specifically that I'm seeing a lot again, and I don't think people are doing it intentionally. If you guys have your personal page and you have your business page, if you're putting a post out on your business page, try to put some time or a buffer between you sharing it directly across to your personal page. And the reason why we say this is what happens, and a lot of times we don't even realize it, what happens is your friends and their newsfeed are going to get blasted with both your business's notification as well as your personal notification. And unfortunately, when it comes to Facebook specifically, this is just me talking in the breed that I know, what happens is a lot of times people will unfollow you as a friend, and or they might actually unlike your page. And the reason for that is that they don't want to see all of the stuff twice doubled up every single time. So whether you just create a paper and pencil calendar to say, hey, if I share a post at 9 a.m., I'll cross share it on my personal post 3 hours later, or you were talking about a couple different softwares where you can actually import it in and stagger it out. So you can create a post and you say in 4 hours, cross this over into my personal page. That's another option, but just be very aware. So I personally work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they just get super excited because the creative muse comes to them. They think of like 7 social media posts to put out. And then so a lot of times they'll do that. They'll blast different stuff within a 3-hour time frame. And it's super cool that they're excited. However, they're not taking in consideration the behavior of the people that are actually following them. So if you get that creative muse that comes to you, awesome. Write it down or put it into an Excel file, or create the post and put it into a software and share it over the next couple days, if that makes sense. It's definitely, you want to educate and provide knowledge to those that are following you. At the same time, you got to also take in consideration they probably don't want to see 9 things back to back within a 2-hour time frame from you.
Unless you're on Twitter.
Unless you're on Twitter. So that's the other thing too. Social media, like different things work different ways, right? So social or Twitter, you can get away with, is it 4 seconds on Twitter?
It's about 3 seconds at this point.
So crazy. So, I'm not a Twitter person. I'm a Facebook person, but he's a Twitter person.
Depending on the number of followers you have, the lifespan of a tweet is between 3 and 15 seconds. That's a very, very short time span. I've got, and unfortunately, I have to mute some of my friends that I follow on Twitter. So that's a cool thing. You want to tell, oh, no, that's on Twitter. But on Twitter, I have to mute them because they may post 40 to 50 times in a day. And seriously, I don't care that much about you.
The truth comes out.
It is what it is. I mean, I care enough to go onto Facebook and see your 1 or 2 posts in a day.
Right.
And even that on Facebook, if you have 9 new posts within an hour and a half period, I know that, okay, you were sitting on your couch watching TV,
which
and
is
you decided
like
to blast it
on
up.
personal, it's kind of like more acceptable. My whole recommendation is on the business side, right? So like a lot of times business profiles are attached to personal profiles, and it's just by default. They're like, oh, yep, I'll go ahead and share this in my personal too. But I think it's because people don't realize that some fans are already following your business, and you don't want to take a chance at basically pissing them off to be like, I don't want to see this anymore. It doesn't apply. I mean, you might have family, you might have cousins and college friends and high school friends that may never become your clientele. They're only following you to support you. So you have to take that in consideration. Yeah. So what did you find on your phone?
All right. So I was looking up stuff here on my phone. Basically, it was something that had come up earlier this week. We were doing just a real quick review of a website. And dealing with the mobile resolutions. The site just happened to be not working, and we were trying to narrow down just what resolution to use. Now, I've always said that your mobile dimensions on your phone, so the width was always about 350 pixels is about the maximum you want to go. Some people design a little bit smaller, but this week I actually went out and had a look at I'm with you, Casey. I had to look at some of the stats.
But real quick, Casey, your stuff's beautiful. Like, I love seeing it twice. So the side note, anyway.
I haven't blocked you, Casey. So how about that, right? So, but basically, we went out, I found the statistics, what's actually being used as of this month, what is the most popular browser dimensions on a cell phone. And the number is 360 pixels by 640.
Right.
So it's actually inside of Chrome, if you're ever doing that. You can go not incognito, but you can inspect element and then click the mobile option at the very top and choose the option for the Samsung S5. But basically what it's telling is that 360 pixels wide counters for about 58% of the entire mobile market. So if your website does not work at that dimension, at 360 by 640, you're losing out on a big majority of people. So we're talking the iPhone 8s use that level. The Droids, the Razors, and all that kind of stuff, they all use that. A lot of the newer ones will also use where they'll have the double retinas and stuff like that. So
he's getting really geeky. Can you tell? He's like super. He's like, oh my god, they have all these and I'm over here like, what was the conversation? Images.
I'm waiting
image
on
optimizing, resizing.
I'm waiting on the phone to come out. It's a 4K phone, and I'll be in awe.
Which is funny. Just as a side note, you guys will notice we're very down to earth. Do you remember last year we were considering switching to flip phones? And we were actually thinking and considering switching to flip phones, and instead we actually upgraded. The store didn't offer flip phones anymore, but we upgraded our phones anyway for more technology.
One of 2 options that was actually going to happen. One was swapping back to flip phones. And the other was I was getting rid of my cell phone, period. Nobody really has my cell phone number.
Now it's a challenge accepted. Everybody's going to call Connor that has his old business card.
And those that do have my cell phone number understand that I don't answer my phone. So really all I've got is just text messages, and I can do that with a pager. Now,
with a pager.
Pagers are still a thing, people.
In the medical industry, for sure. I don't know about...
There's a place downtown. It's called Pagers or Beepers and Pagers, or Pagers and Beepers. But they sell pagers and the text pager. What? I'm not that old, I swear. I swear.
I can already see you doing the, what is it, 43110.
Oh no, I'm not doing that.
Different codes. Oh my gosh.
No, I'm not, and I do still have my actual number beeper at the house. I still have that.
The actual 90s. beeper just
the one from the 90s.
My gosh. I remember boobs. Like, that's the one
that
I
was
remember.
The one,
6006 or whatever.
I've had so many things over the years.
Or if you flip it, it's poop.
Sure, if you say so.
Anyway.
But going all the way back now that Kim's taking us off on a completely different tangent.
It's cool. It's who we are. It's who we are.
Basically, those dimensions on your pages. Just when you work with your designer, check your website, go through your website, bring it up on phones, bring it up on friends' phones, make sure it actually shows okay, because you could be losing out on a big part of the market, which then ties into your analytics and check your stuff and read your reports.
Make sure you look at all of your stuff. Don't just set it and forget it. Don't.
Trusting, trust is a big issue, and I do trust certain people, and I do trust certain tasks will get done.
He trusts that I'm going to feed him. You were supposed to laugh.
Yeah. The thing behind it was trust but verify.
Yes.
And as long as you follow that, and I believe the news organizations were supposed to follow that mantra.
Right.
Trust but verify. So as long as you do that, everything's cool. So how about that?
You're just done. You're wrapped up. Well, hey, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us, guys. We will actually be back next Friday at 2:30. Here's our request and here's our area. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and like the video itself. If you have specific questions, feel free to comment inside this video specifically. Here's the deal. We have wicked knowledge when it comes to internet marketing, SEO, pay-per-click specifically, as well as website design. We don't always know what question to answer, if that makes sense. So if you have questions, more than likely other people have questions. So don't be shy and put them in. We'll either try and deliver the answer to the best way that we can, or we might do some research and determine the answer to help other people as well.
And if for some reason it's a personal issue and you don't want to actually share it publicly, I mean, go to our website. Go to our website.
Or you can just do Facebook message too. Facebook message or go to our website. Our website has a contact form where you can put more information and type to your heart's content. I think a website message is limited on characters, so something to just consider depending on the situation. But if you could just like the video, if you liked it, that way we know, and we're super happy to produce more. And then if you need any help, just reach out and let us know how. We could either try and help you or find you the right resource or just provide you some support and some love. Who knows? We're not in this gig alone, if that makes sense. There's multiple people and businesses and situations all around. So we hope you have a great Friday as well as a following weekend, and we hope that you wake up Monday morning ready to kick some ass, right? Because that's what it's all about.
I guess do some reflection on that 6-month question thing.
It was a good question. It's a good question. What's the one thing that you did in the last 6 months that substantially enhanced your business or life, right? Like, it's just a really good reflection question to think about and consider, and how can you take it further? It was a really good one, because that was a follow-up that came with me is, well, if you invest in yourself, how are you going to do it again? But that's a totally different scenario.
So I guess my task for the rest of the day is go take a nap and reflect on this, right? Your task
based on your thing would be go outside or go play golf and reflect on the 6-month conversation. That's how you tie it all back around, right, guys?
All right. So if anybody's local, and they want to go play golf, hit me
Conor up. Hey, Conor, you can ask him unlimited SEO questions while he's golfing. He just requires beer or whiskey, one of the two.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining. We will see you next week. Toodaloo.
All right, guys. Bye now.